My name is Michael Grecco. I've been a professional photographer for over 30 years. I started as a photojournalist and worked for about 15 years as a photojournalist. And then the last little over 15 years, I've been a celebrity portrait photographer. I've done a lot of magazine portrait work, some advertising work, and I just did a large book project called Naked Ambition, an R-rated look at an X-rated industry. With that, I directed a documentary feature film that hit number 12 on iTunes in the documentary category, called Naked Ambition. And most of my work now is people-oriented, although in the Naked Ambition book I did some still life photography and I've done some landscape photography.
Now, you didn't mention your favorite book of mine, which is Lighting in the Dramatic Portrait. And I was hoping that you could, go into a little more detail about it and, how it came to be.
Lighting in the dramatic portrait came about um, because I had done a book in '99 called The Art of Portrait Photography. And I really didn't like how that book was printed and hated the publisher of that book. And really, there were some issues with just the quality of the book. And so I was approached by Victoria Craven at what was then Watson Guptill Publishing. They're now part of Random House, to do a book out of my seminars. I've been teaching that seminar, Lighting in the Dramatic Portrait, since maybe 1994, both at Santa Fe and at the Photo Plus Expo in New York. And the book came from that lecture. It came from this idea that, Michael Grecco is very knowledgeable on lighting. He's a lighting expert. Here's a book on lighting. But my goal was not just to make a book on lighting. It was to make a book on lighting with a perspective. All of those other books to me were rudimentary. They didn't have an edge. The pictures weren't stylized. The work wasn't artful. It wasn't interesting for the most part. So for me, I wanted to see a book that was edgy, that broke the rules, that didn't give you rules. And that's really what lighting in the dramatic portrait was about. Every book up until then gave you the lighting rules. I came into it by saying there are no rules. This is how I break all of those rules. Screw the rules, and here's the way I do it. Try it. Try this, try that, see what works. And here's why these things work in these different situations. And that was really how it came about for me. It was the way I approached my magazine shoots, very much so in the '90s, by every time I went out trying to break a rule, especially with lighting and portraiture. What was the moment when I first felt like I was a successful photographer? Well, as a photojournalist, when I got my job at the newspaper, I really felt successful when I started working as a staff photographer at the Boston Herald and was covering the president and big news events. And twice while working for the newspaper, I had outshot the People magazine photographers on two news assignments, and they picked up pictures of mine. So when I was working for the paper and in that regular regiment and working every day and having that pressure, that sort of hit me with this sort of flow of letting go and doing it and doing the best job you can, and knowing you're doing okay. And then as a portrait photographer, I think in 1993, the same sort of thing happened within a year. I was asked to do this sequence of 10 pictures around the world for Business Week. And I created basically this look and style on with this job that remained for most of my portraits in the '80s, where I made these very moody, very personal, very worked and finely lit black and white dramatic portraits of all these businessmen, and then took that same thing and did it with a show like The X-Files. And we did the big advertising and publicity shoot for the show The X-Files. I think that was '94. The attitude is that should be, to me, that you're on a journey. You're going to see where it takes you. You're going to figure out how to get there. And the education is continual. We're sort of in this generation where everyone got the trophy, even if they lost the soccer game. You know, everyone that played soccer got a trophy of some sort. And it's like, okay, but people are losers. There are losers in this world. So everyone expects to be this winner. And I think that in photography, it's such a competitive market and it's such a tough market. And there's so many people out there that you really need to have the attitude that A, you really want it badly. And B, if you want it that badly, you'll do whatever it takes. And I think that that's the attitude for success. You know, that you'll stick with it, you'll do whatever it takes, you'll keep at it, you know. And if it doesn't work, you've given it the best try possible, but no one's going to hand it to you. What's the work ethic philosophy that I apply to my daily business? Showing up. You know, showing up is really the most important thing. You know, this year it's been slow for everyone from Annie Leibovitz to Marcus Klinko and Indrani, and there's been financial issues in our industry, but you can't give up. You have to keep going. You have to. I show up. I show up every day at 9 o'clock, 9:30, sometimes 8:30, and I'm there till 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. I'm making sure that I'm touching base with clients. We're coming up with project ideas. I'm pitching a television show. We're looking at a movie possibility. Like I've got projects. If magazines are down and advertising is down, I'm looking at other potential projects and what I can do for my career in the fine art world, as a director, as a photographer. Well, I think as a photographer, it's good to be well diversified. I think that, you know, if you're just shooting, relying on one client and the client goes out of business, or there's a new creative director at the agency, or and all of a sudden your world has changed. I mean, this happens to us all the time. You start doing some jobs for an art buyer, the art buyer loves you, and the art buyer is gone. And what do you do? So I think that being well diversified is very, very important. But for me, it's not only being well diversified as a photographer. I think for me, I like doing, directing. I like working on books and fine art projects. I like investigating business possibilities, how to take the pictures you've shot and do something financially successful with them. So I like being not only diversified in photography, but diversified all around.